Welcome to For Real Watchers Radio Show, worldwide live, with the best experts as guests. And with your hosts, Jerry Dean and Brett Warner. Expect bone-chilling and heart-pounding stories of paranormal, ufology, supernatural stories, and breathtaking encounter after encounter. Join us as we dive into the abyss of the unknown. Every Friday night, 8 p.m. Central and 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on the best paranormal network, Paranormal King Network. Dead between your eyes, pulling no punches. We'll see you on the other side. Be prepared for anything. Weak hearts dare not enter. All right, everybody, we are back. I want to give a shout out to everyone listening in tonight and everyone in the chat channels for another edition of For Real Watchers Radio. I am your host, Brett.
And I'm your other host, Jerry Dean. We're going to get her started, ain't that right, Brett?
Yeah, we're going to get it started. We got an interesting guest tonight, paranormal investigator for over 20 years, might be over 25 years. I'll ask her. Radio host. She's even been on TV in the past. Who do we have, Jerry?
Well, we have got the one and only Christina George out of California, unless she's in Vegas. Christina, you out there?
I'm here. I'm in Cali.
Oh, man, good to have you with us.
It's great to be back.
Still early out there.
I bet it ain't snow.
No, absolutely not.
No snow here.
Well, sweetheart, Brett is in North Carolina. I'm in the great state of Texas, and it's snowing in Texas. Oh my God!
Yeah, we haven't had any snow up here. Well, we've had it in the Carolinas, but right where I live, believe it or not, we got a flurry about 2 weeks ago and has not snowed since. So that's really weird. Texas don't really get much snow, do they? Down there?
No, this ain't a norm. This is not a norm.
Well, anyways, Christina, I want to welcome you to the show and everybody listening in, like I said, and listening in and on the chat channels. Let's start off here. Tell us a little bit about yourself. We know you've been in paranormal for many years. I know you're a radio host. Are you getting ready to start one in that?
Well, I've been doing radio now for a little over 10 years. I have 2 shows. I had to take a year off this past year. I have health issues, and between coronavirus and everything else going on, it really took a toll on my health. So I literally, anybody who knows me knows I rarely ever take any time off. And so to take a whole year off was huge, but it was very important because I do deal with a terminal illness, and paranormal investigating and diseases don't really work real well together, especially when you're a psychic.
Oh, you're a psychic too. Wow, that's interesting.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. So I don't know, real shortly, how long have you been in paranormal? What got you started in it? Just an interest?
Well, I've had psychic ability since I was a very, very young child. The earliest memory I have is 4 years old. And so I never really, growing up, I never really knew what my abilities were. All I knew is that I could see things that other people couldn't, and I knew things that other people didn't. And I really never knew. I was kind of like that odd kid out. Like nobody really knew what to think of me. I was in a gang, mind you, when I was a teen. And then I hung out, on the weekends, I hang out at the cemetery and meditate in the cemeteries. And then I was on a cheerleader and on the swim team. So really nobody knew what the heck to think of me.
Wow. So you said you were seeing things or, having visions at that age, or?
Yes.
How did that? Wow. That's weird. And you've been just...
When you say you were seeing things like Elvis, what were you seeing?
No, I was never afraid. Let's put it that way. I never saw anything, that scared me or anything that concerned me as a child. It was just kind of, that's the way it was. I could see things that other people couldn't. I could, talk to spirits. But again, if you would have asked me growing up, what my abilities were, or if I was a psychic, I would have said absolutely not, because when I was growing up, psychics were like Miss Cleo and Dionne Warwick, so you call a 900 number and, they give you a crock of, bull and, tell you that you've got demons and, give them all your money and they'll take care of it. So I absolutely never considered myself a psychic. It wasn't actually until I became an adult and I actually had joined a paranormal group, and I ended up being their quote unquote lead psychic. And I fought with the group for, I don't know, about a year, because I just did not want that title. And, it took a while until I really understood, what exactly my abilities were and everything. So it kind of changed a little bit, about that. Like I said, I wasn't ever afraid of the paranormal. Until I was probably around 12 or 13 years old, and I had a really bad experience with the Ouija board, and that kind of changed everything.
We'll definitely have to dive into that one if you wouldn't mind. So,
of course.
A little more on that. So you got a Ouija board, what, just playing with it, or were you trying to do something specific with it, or?
So let's put it this way. So, growing up, as I said, I didn't have like a whole lot of friends. I knew a lot of people and everybody like loved me, but nobody could really figure me out. So I didn't really like hang out with people and stuff like that. So I actually met this group of goth kids in school. And when I met them, I met them actually at the cemetery. They were hanging out at the cemetery, so was I. And, so it was like the first people that I met that didn't find me strange, that I was hanging out at the cemetery. So one of the girls had invited me for a sleepover. So again, one of the first sleepovers I ever had as well. So I'm like, okay, great. I've got some friends, people who accept me, I'm not this weirdo to them. So I agree, and I go over to the house, and I walk in, and they had like this little garage addition. They had like converted their garage into like like where the kids hung out and stuff like that. So we walk into the garage, the converted garage, and in there's some like beanbags, and there's like a table and some chairs, and on the table was the Ouija board. Now, mind you, growing up, every one of my friends their parents had a Ouija board. I mean, it was just kind of like a staple. Everybody had a Ouija board because, again, back then, everybody just thought it was a game. So everybody had it like in their board game closet.
Sure, Hasbro.
Yeah, so I wasn't afraid, of it, but it was just like I just never needed to use a Ouija board because I could see and communicate with spirits. So I really didn't need the board. But they bring this board and they're like, all right, we're going to do this. And so the whole idea that they had was that they were going to test me to see if I was truly a psychic. And, it's the story of my life ever since. So they sit down and they're like, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do the Ouija board. And what we want you to do is we're going to ask the questions, and we want you to give us the answers that the board is going to give us before the board gives us the answer.
Wow. Okay.
I'd never done that before, but I'm sure why, I can give it a try, see what happens. And so at the beginning we started doing it. And, the first couple of things that I had answered, they kind of looked at me like, and they're looking at each other like, did somebody give me the information of the questions beforehand? And so it did. And so as we got on, things started to take a little bit of a turn, and some of the answers were a little bit more dark, and they were targeted towards people who were there. And all of a sudden, the girl that invited me there got freaked out. And I don't even remember what I said now, but I had said something, and it completely freaked her out. She no longer wanted to do the Ouija board. She picked it up and literally went to the backyard, put it in a metal garbage can, and put it on fire.
Uh-huh.
Now, all of us, are in the paranormal field, as adults, like we know that not a good idea.
Right.
Not a good idea.
I've never trusted them myself. I can't say I have any experience with them, but from what I've heard all the years I've been doing this, there's better ways to do it. I've just never done it.
Absolutely. And again, you never know with the Ouija board what exactly may or may not come through. So, I've had all kinds of people over the years that have told me, that I use Ouija boards all the time. There's nothing wrong with them. There's, it's just another tool. And I agree, it is a tool. But again, it can have some very, very bad consequences. And so when we're doing all of this, thing, and they go to burn the Ouija board, all of a sudden, like, I get this really bad feeling like, oh, this was not a good idea. And so from that night on, there was now this presence. It was a man. Well, I assumed a man because the voice was of a man. It looked like the Grim Reaper. It had a robe on with a very deep, hood on it. I couldn't see a face or anything. And this thing basically stayed with me my whole, teenage years through my adult life and has still been with me to this day. We have not been able to get rid of it. But as a teenager, this thing literally tried to convince me to take my own life.
No, man.
Multiple times. Yes, multiple times. And to the point that I became a cutter, because again, being a psychic medium and an empath, I had no idea what that meant. I was absorbing so much energy from people around me, and I had no control over my abilities. So it was just, I was all over the place. So it was the only way I could really seem to release any of that built up energy was to cut myself.
Whoa.
And how old were you then? You said you were an adult or you were still with girls in school?
Yeah, I was about 12 years old.
How'd you ever get rid of it? I mean, is it just...
I still have it to this day. I have never been able to get rid of it. Yeah, I've never been able to get rid of it. I've had multiple people come and try to get rid of this thing, but it hasn't. But it was kind of weird because, as I said, now mind you, I grew up Catholic. And so I didn't really know like what was going on. I went to the priest to try to get some help, and because the Catholics were, the priest is the go-to person and he knows everything. I would go to him to talk about, what was going on in my life with the spirits and everything, and they would always tell me to stop talking about it. There was no such thing, and I was kind of a smart aleck back then because they would say there's no such thing as ghosts and spirits, and I'd say, well, then why when we pray do we say in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? And that would just tick off the priest. So, I was not really welcome with this. So they couldn't really give me any guidance, there. So I go and this, thing keeps coming up, and it would show up like whenever I was like really down, whenever I was having, a lot of problems in life. I had a very traumatic childhood. So when things were going on, that's when this thing would show up. And when I would be cutting, this thing would literally whisper in my ear as I we're getting an echo. Do you hear that?
Yes, I'm hearing it. Still there?
It just started happening. Okay, now it looks like it's okay. So, so I'm cutting, and this thing is whispering in my ear, just push a little bit harder, and it'll all be over. You can come be with us. And it was something about, I was about 15 and this happened. And when it said that this time, a light bulb went off in my head. And it was like, I'm thinking about what it said. And it said, just push a little bit harder and it'll all be over. You can come be with us. And it made me think, if this thing is so evil, so powerful, so all this, why would it need me to push a little bit harder? Why couldn't it just take my life? And,
so at that point, Christina, so at that point, you didn't know what it was you were dealing with. I mean, this thing's literally trying to get you to commit suicide.
Yeah, she was only 15.
So you didn't even know.
Right. I had no idea. And so when this thing is trying to get me to, kill myself, all of a sudden, like I get brave all of a sudden, and I'm like, well, if you can, take my life, why do you need me to do it? If you're so powerful and why don't you take my life? And it was like, I realized at that point that this thing could not hurt me itself. It needed to convince me to hurt myself. So at that point, it kind of empowered me, because now I'm like, okay, now I'm not afraid of you, because now I realize you can't actually hurt me. So I start, being a smart aleck, and I'm like, well, if you're so bad, you're so powerful, why do you hide behind the robe, right? This robe that he had on. And I said, why don't you show yourself? And I will never, ever forget it, because he says, oh, you want to see what I look like? And I'm like, yeah. And he put his head forward and he put his hands up by the hood. And the first thing I see is he's got these long, super long fingers. They're all bony. They like something right out of a scary movie. So now I'm a little bit, scared a little bit, but again, I'm remembering it can't hurt me. And then it puts its head down, and then it lifts its head up. And as it lifts its head up, it pushes the hood back. And right out of the Bible, I see what would be in real life the devil, Satan himself. So now, mind you, me being 15, I'm Catholic. I mean, now I'm petrified, because it's like that the only thing that I would be scared of would be hell and Satan. So that it like freaked me out, and then at that point, I literally went and found a book on blocking abilities, and I literally went and decided that I needed to block my abilities. I did not want these abilities anymore. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And it worked for a very short period of time, maybe a few weeks, maybe a month. And then little by little, the abilities, started coming, the spirit started coming again. So that's something, like I said, that has been with me my whole life. I've went to many people. Oh, we got to echo again.
Yes, we do.
Yep, it's coming from somewhere. I assume then, since those days, Christina, you don't play with Ouija boards at all anymore?
Oh,
ever?
Absolutely not. No. And, I've been very, very vocal on my show and lectures and everything, about the dangers of Ouija boards. And again, you get so many people and they're like, oh, we use Ouija boards all the time. It's just another tool. And again, like I said, I do agree with that. But there is a very dark side to using this type of tool. And there are, hundreds of thousands of, stories all across the internet and, throughout the paranormal communities of people who have used a Ouija board, maybe only even one time, and have had really bad things happen. So, I'm just saying, why? Why do it if you know that something really bad can happen, especially like an attachment?
Well, we've talked about this a little in the past. I don't think people deep down know it or understand it or even believe it. How many people are out there, doing investigations or what they call ghost hunting that really, they're how do I explain it, Jerry? They do it for the thrill of the chase or, the excitement. And I don't think they really deep down understand the dark forces out there when you start playing with things like this.
And the consequences, again, can, just one time, can end up being like a situation like, mine, where I've had this attachment my whole life. And, I don't see that anytime soon I'm going to be able to get rid of this. I've, learned to just kind of live with it and, kind of take control back of my life. But, I wouldn't recommend it. That's, all I'm saying. And when I go to events and if I see that people are using a Ouija board, I will not have anything to do with it. I just walk away.
Well, that would have been.
I think, honestly, as far as what you were asking me earlier, Brett, as far as it, and I use the word lightly, tool. I think a lot of people either see it as a game, which is pathetic. People are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. But you look at the Ouija board, I don't see it as a tool. I see it as a gateway, And a lot of people literally that have had experiences see it the same way. My advice to anybody out there is, instead of trying to reach loved ones that have passed, uh, I'd say stick to prayer, because you're not talking to your loved ones. These things are fakers, and they love to have that little doorway, whether it be a Ouija board, silences, whatever. When you open up that door, it's over. They come in. And that's where attachments and all kinds of habits, come from there.
I agree. But yeah, that sounds like some turbulent teenage years. So yeah, moving forward, Christina. So you eventually got into paranormal. You've been investigating ever since. I know you're from California. You travel everywhere. I mean, you've done this in other states too. You've been on TV.
Yeah.
Tell us a few of your your most active locations, what you ran into or what you did. I mean,
well, your last project. Well, I'm sorry, Brett, to interrupt. Your last project was GAC, old Zach, and Aaron.
Oh, Zach, Ghost Adventures, right?
Yeah, GAC.
Yeah, not my favorite show, but yes, I did go on there to help out a friend who has a very haunted location. I would say of maybe the top 3 places that I've investigated that have been pretty intense and pretty scary things happened to me. There was one in Oregon, and it looked like an old plantation mansion, and it had been converted to a golf course. And I went there for an event. It was the first time that they had ever had.
Exactly. Golf course, that's got to be a first. Yeah.
It was interesting for sure, because the first thing that we did when we show up is it looks like right out of like Gone with the Wind. And so I see this place, but as I'm walking around the outside, we were waiting for the guy to get there to open it up. As we're walking around the outside, I'm seeing like all of these spirits like just wandering around the property. And it was really weird. I mean, it was a lot of women and a lot of children. So, whenever I go to a location, and Jerry knows it, whenever I go to a location to investigate, I never ever want to know anything about the location that I'm going to. I want to go completely blind. I don't want to know where we're going, the address. I don't want to know anything. I want to go completely without any, preconceived, information or ideas that anybody could say, oh, well, maybe she looked, the history up or anything like that. So I never have, the information. So, of course, I hear this, I see all these people walking around, and I'm trying to figure out, like, what in the world is going on? Why are all these people here? And, they're just walking around. They just kind of seem to be wandering. So we end up, they get there, I go inside, we start walking around. The inside was completely different than the energy from the outside. So I finished the walk around, and everybody comes to ask me. And so I tell them what I pick up on and the different people I was picking up on inside the building, and everything's came to be the owner, the guy who built the place. His spirit was there, as well as other family members. So the guy that's throwing the event says, well, what did you think of the basement? And I was like, what basement? I didn't even know there was a basement. So he's like, yeah, let me take you to the basement. So we go into the kitchen, and I kept getting that there was something major about this kitchen, but I couldn't get any other information. So we go down through the kitchen into the basement, and immediately I hear in my ear a male voice telling me to get out now. And I'm like, great. So I tell the event coordinators, whatever's down here, there was definitely a portal down there. I'm like, whatever is down there does not want us down there. And he's like, well, in the paranormal, this is the first place everybody's going to want to investigate. And I'm like, I get that. But I'm telling you that it's not going to be a smart idea. And he's like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm being told not to investigate down there. And my, big thing is respect for me, with the spirit world. And, I've learned over time that when you're given a warning, it's probably, you should heed that warning. So I'm like, nope, I'm not going to do the basement. You guys can do the basement if you want, but I'm not going to do it. So we do the event, and as we're doing the event, I start to feel very ill. Like really ill. So bad that we had to leave early. And so we went back, and we thought maybe it was just I was tired because we had, driven 12 hours to get there, and I hadn't had any sleep. So we decided we were going to go back to the hotel. I was just going to rest, and then I would come back the following day. Well, it got even weirder because we get there. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, we have this freak storm, and it takes out all the power in town and at the hotel. And I get super sick, and I end up passing out in our hotel room. And my friend who's traveling with me had to call an ambulance. And the ambulance could not find us. Crazy, right? They have GPS, but they cannot find me anywhere. So I have to go down, and we're in the middle of this gigantic, rainstorm, and it's thunder and lightning. And they finally come and get me. They take me to the hospital. I spent the whole night there until like 4:00 the next day, and the event was supposed to start at 5. So I get out of the hospital, and my friend is telling me, look, you need to just cancel. You just need to go and rest. Like, you just got out of the hospital. And I'm like, no, I have an obligation. I can't walk out now. I've got to go and do this. So I went directly from the hospital, changed my clothes, and went straight to the event. And I said, you know what? I felt so bad about the night prior not doing the basement. And I'm like, you know what? I think I'm just going to go ahead, and we're going to do the basement. We can do it first. In fact, I feel really bad. And, the guy doing the event's like, seriously? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Right. So we do the event, we do the dinner. Everything went really good. Everybody was having a good time. We go downstairs, and I'm live streaming all of this for the show. So we're sitting in a circle. We've got all the chairs in a circle. We're all sitting in a circle, and they were using a spirit box. And so all this information starts coming through, and all of a sudden, the spirit comes through, and it's saying that he is the son of the man who built the building that had died there, and that one of the guys that was doing the event validated that man's son did die at the house, but he was like 36 years old, right, when he died. And this spirit was saying that he was 6 years old, and he's trying to say that when he died, that when he was 6 years old, that this was like a happy point in his life. So when he died, he went back to being 6 years old, which I'm calling BS, because I'm like, no. And he keeps saying all this different stuff, and I'm hearing this same spirit that was warning me not to go down there, basically laughing, like, these humans are so stupid. They're believing everything that we're saying. So I finally say to the guy doing the event, you know what, we've got enough. Like, I think that it's time to go. And as I say that, they're like, oh, just a little bit more. So I'm sitting there, and I've got people to each side of me. So I'm live streaming, and all of a sudden, in my ear again, I hear the same voice from earlier, the prior day, and it says, get out now. But mind you, this time, I'm not the only person who hears it. The people next to me on both sides said, did you hear that? And I said, no, hear what? And they said, it sounded like they said, get out now. Well, as they're telling me that, I'm reading the comments of my live stream, and people who were listening to the live stream heard it as well.
Whoa.
So now I'm at the point like, okay, it's time to go. We need to. He's making sure that I know that we're not supposed to be here. So I'm like, all right, let's go upstairs and go to the attic, which was another place that was very active. So the guy's like, okay, let's go. And we start to go up these wooden staircase, an old rickety staircase that goes up and back into the kitchen. And so we start one by one, and there's a line of people going up, and we're letting all of the, guests go. And I was like somewhere towards the back. There was like maybe 10 or 12 people behind me. So everybody starts going up. I go up the stairs, and I take 2 steps up, and all of a sudden I literally see this black figure come flying down the stairs. And next thing I know, I wake up on the floor, and I've got about 10 people around me. Now, what I thought was that this spirit had like flown down the stairs and like tried to go through me, because I've had spirits before like pass through me and it's caused me to pass out. So that's what I'm thinking happened. So right away they're like, oh no, you need to leave, and this is too much, and you just got out of the hospital. So I leave early, and they continue. And the next morning we head back for our 12-hour drive back to California, because we were in Oregon. And when we get back that night, the next day we're doing the radio show, and I invited the host of the event to come on and talk about, what had happened. So we're talking about everything that happened, and I'm talking about, this thing flying down and trying to go through me, and that it caused me to pass out. And right then, both of the guys stopped me, the guests, they both stopped me, and they're like, well, yeah, it was like that, but not really. So now I'm thinking, what? Like, first of all, now you're making me sound like a liar on my show. And I was like, what did I miss? And they said, well, let us tell you how it really happened. So then they informed me live on radio that people who were behind me, including them, all visually saw this black shadow figure fly down the stairs, but it did not go through me. They said it literally lifted me up off the ground, lifted me up off the ground about 3 feet, and then threw me across the floor, across the room, where I hit the concrete floor and got knocked out.
Oh, that's amazing. Hey, I don't want to interrupt your story, but I don't want to get too far behind too. Just 2 questions real quick, Christina. Number 1, we basically hit on your TV thing a little while ago. Are there any current paranormal shows now that you watch, or any that you would recommend? What's your favorite, if you watch them still?
To be honest, I do not watch them. I mean, I've watched a couple of them, like Ghost Brothers and a few things. They're kind of entertaining and stuff. For me, I don't really like watching the television shows because, they are for entertainment purposes. And although, some investigating is done, I know for an absolute fact, because I've been present at filming of some of these shows, where they have definitely faked.
We talked about that. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Number 2, real quick here, how would you deal with a demonic case? Do you believe that's what that last thing was, or have you run into that much?
I don't want to say, demonic. I do believe things that there are very dark things out there that have no goodwill, for us, and do want to hurt us. Do I want to say it's demonic? I just don't really like putting titles, because, who's to say it's demonic, or if it's just a negative entity, or, there's all kinds of titles for these things. Me personally, I feel like, if it's something that I can't handle, or it's beyond my scope of knowledge, that you need to go to somebody who does have, the knowledge and, know what they're doing as far as, something like an exorcism. And again, there's a lot of people who call themselves exorcists, and they say that they can do exorcisms. But again, the amount of people who truly are legit and know what they're doing is very small.
Yeah, going so yeah, back to the TV thing. So just the one time with Ghost Adventures, or have you went with some other groups on TV or?
Not on TV. I mean, I've investigated with hundreds of different teams all over the country. Again, I really kind of stay away from television, only because I don't want to have anything that I do. It's already hard enough being an investigator and being a psychic, because people already doubt you. Just as soon as they hear psychic, it's automatically, a great deal of people are going to discount you and not even, believe in it. So television, again, a lot of it is scripted and it's for entertainment purposes, and I don't fake anything. So, I would rather go out and get teams of investigators and investigate with them and live stream it than I would rather than being on television.
Yeah, that's
well, the truth of the matter is a lot of that, and I've been in a lot of film crews too. A lot of it is literally staged, for entertainment value, to keep the ratings up and get everybody to come back. I won't name names of shows, but I know firsthand. And I know you do too, sweetheart. But the one thing I think I just want to go back just a little bit. Those of y'all that are listening, if you get mixed with anything that you're not sure of, watch your six. Maybe get a little education before you play with a Ouija board. And I would not be playing with a Ouija board. Number one, it is a gate. So y'all might want to think a little bit, quit being a ghost hunter. If you want to get serious about the field, I believe in prayer before I even investigate anything. And I don't do it for, thrills and chills. But anybody out there listening, a ball cap and a T-shirt and some fancy equipment don't make you a paranormal investigator. Some of us take this very, very sincerely. And we know the dangers. And for those of you that are doing it just to be a quote-unquote ghost hunter, you really need to really think about what it is you might run into. There are documented stories of people that were ghost hunters that ran into the real deal. And God be with you if you do.
Right.
Just give you a full warning.
Yeah, I'll agree with that statement for sure. It's what I mentioned earlier a little bit out there. Seems like everybody's getting into it. Everybody wants to be a ghost hunter, going out and buying $100 cameras and this and that and all these new cool gadgets. And I got news for you. It doesn't quite work that well, but it looks good on TV. I'll give you that.
Right.
When you bump into the real deal, and I've known a lot of people that have, including myself, you're pretty much apt not to want to go back to doing it, because it does have an effect on you. But those that want to, brave the dark and fear, and I don't understand to this day why ghost hunters can't do it during the day. Maybe it's a whole spooky concept. I don't know.
That's all that is,
Yeah,
because
it is.
again, you can go and invest. I investigate, and I'm getting too old to stay up all night long. It's a waste of my time. Like I want to go out and get the evidence, and I can get it, daytime, nighttime. It doesn't make any difference. So
exactly. I've had some of the most experiences during the daylight. What's this all? Let's turn off the lights.
right.
Yeah, I heard a theory of that once that, the serious people like doing it because it's just quieter at night, but whatever. I mean, it's.
The whole dark thing, or a dark basement, dark attic, dark house. You could investigate as a paranormal investigator thoroughly during daylight.
I wish they'd come out more in the daylight. It saved me money on my IR stuff for sure. But yeah. But you do remote viewing too, you mentioned to me once.
Yes.
Explain what that is to everyone. I for those who don't know it, because I thought that was really cool, because I ran into a case. I know Jerry Dean knows a little bit about it, where we wish we had a psychic there. And then you came up and says, well, they don't have to be there in person. And that I found that interesting that you have that as well.
Well, I had a team from Arkansas, long time, years and years ago, and they wanted to work with me, and I couldn't get out to Arkansas. And so they had said, well, do you think that if we could do it over the phone? And I said, well, I don't know. Shoot, I don't know why not. I said, if you video chat me and walk me through the location, because it would be no different than if I was walking through the location and seeing what I pick up on and what I see. It's just somebody walking through for me and holding the camera. Just, if there's something there, I'm going to see it, whether I'm physically there or I'm seeing it through the video. So they utilized me on a couple of cases and were so impressed that I basically became their, resident psychic for all of their investigations. And so they would, call me in, and then I would do my reading, give them everything. Then they would do the investigation, and then they would let me know at the end, what validation they got and things like that. So it's interesting,
Well, that is really interesting. As a matter of fact, now that I know you, I may just utilize your services one day. You never know.
Absolutely.
I could have definitely needed you 2 weeks ago on something, which I'm not going to get into now. But going back to that golf course, I mean, is that somebody picked you up and threw you? Any other incidents like that in your career? I mean,
yes.
Geez, I hear it all the time, hair pulling and wow. There's crazy stuff out there. And I know you have a big past.
But if you go through that, why do you keep doing it?
Well, I mean, I don't really have a choice, right? I mean, this is my life. I didn't ask for this, and, there is no shutting it down. So I just had to embrace it and, deal with it. So, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes it really sucks. And, again, sometimes the messages are not great messages. And in fact, when we're talking about, any other places that I've had that have been really crazy, like the golf course one, and I do, Virginia City, Nevada. And that's actually the place that I filmed for Ghost Adventures as well at. Anybody who's ever been to Virginia City, Nevada will tell you it's a old little, gold mining town. Back in the day, it's about 25 minutes over the mountains from Reno, Nevada. And it's just this little town. It's this little old Western town, and it's got like one main street, and like every second or third building is a old Western bar. And they still have the bars where the kids can come in. You can bring the whole family, and it's crazy. It's like a little old Western town. And the whole town is super haunted. Many people might know, again, if you watch the television shows, the Washoe Club is in Virginia City, Nevada. The Mackey Mansion is up there. There's just so many locations up there, but the Mackey Mansion and the Washoe Club are two of the most popular. Ghost Adventures has been there multiple times to both of them. But pretty much this whole town is haunted. Now, I had always known about it. My family actually would go there all the time. I myself had never, ever been to Virginia City. So I decided a few years ago, one of my friends had invited me to go up there for my birthday. And my friend was like, oh, we're going to go up there, and my other good friend is going to go with us, and it's her birthday that week too, so we're going to celebrate it all of our birthdays together. So I was like, great. And she's like, yeah, she's got a bar up there, and she was wondering if maybe over the weekend, because we were going to be there for 4 days, you would go over there and do a walkthrough of the building and, see what you pick up on. And I was like, sure, no problem. I mean, because it happens all the time. Anytime somebody finds out that I'm a psychic, they have somewhere they want me to either go and do a reading on, or they want me to give them a reading. So we go out, and so we're like the first night, we're celebrating our birthdays. So we are drinking, and I'm just drinking shot after shot after shot of tequila. And all of a sudden, my friend's friend that we are celebrating with, that owns the bar, she's sitting there, and she's like, some other people had wanted to go over there to see the building. And so she's like, hey, Christina, do you want to go over to the bar with me right now? Now, mind you, I mentor people with abilities. I lecture on safety in the paranormal. One of the first things I always say is you never investigate if you've been drinking or doing any kind of, drugs. You want to be clear mind and focused and grounded when you do an investigation. You don't want to have any altering substances in your body. So, sober Christina would have said, absolutely not. This is not a good idea. We've been drinking all night. Let's do it tomorrow. But drunk Christina was like, hell yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. Let's do this.
Yeah, hold my beer.
Hold my beer.
Yep. Let me drink this last shot real quick before we go across the street. So I down the shot and we walk over and we go through these big steel double doors and there's a staircase that goes up. And so we start walking up the stairs and right away I just start getting a bad feeling. And we get to the top and everybody else had went down, I guess, to the basement, but she took me up to the apartment. So we go walking in and we open the door and first thing I see is there's a guy standing in the apartment. And she says, do you see anybody? And I'm like, well, yeah. And she's like, really? Well, what does he look like? So I start describing him. Now, mind you should have seen the look on this guy's face, the spirit's face, because as I'm describing him, all of a sudden he realizes, like, oh my God, she can see me. And he gets a strange look on his face. I get this strange look on my face. I'm explaining who I'm seeing. Now she's getting this crazy look on her face. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he comes running full force at me and literally jumps me and jumps in me. Now, mind you, I am going to be 55 years old. I have had my ability since I was 4 years old. I have never, ever in my whole life had any spirit jump me or enter my body or use me as a vessel. I'm not that kind of psychic medium. I can see you. I can hear you. You can tell me what you want me to say, and I can tell them, I do not need you to be jumping inside my body and taking over. So all of a sudden, I have no control over my body. And I can see everything, I can hear everything, but all of a sudden, I start saying stuff, and it's not me saying it. Uh-oh. It is the guy saying things. Now, right away, he starts saying things to the lady, right? And I'm saying to her, you need to forgive me. I can't move on until you forgive me. It wasn't me. It was this place. It had a control over me. And as I'm saying this right now, again, I'm saying this, I just met this lady hours prior. So it's like, not like I know her, and I'm saying all this stuff, and she's looking at me like crazy, and her eyes are all big, and all of a sudden, as I'm telling her all this stuff, her eyes start to well up, and she turns away, turns her face away, and all of a sudden, I reach out in front of me, and I grab her by her face, by her chin, hard, and I turn her face towards me, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. You have to listen to me. It's me, Nick. It's me. And all of a sudden, like, she gets away, and I'm like, if you don't believe me that it's me, this will tell you. And I feel my hand go backwards, and there was like a little table there, and I pick up this box, and I take it and I put it in her hand, and I'm like, if there's any doubt if it's me, this will tell you, this will be the proof. And I put the box in her hand, and she looks at the box, and all of a sudden she just bursts into tears, and she's like, I gotta go. And she takes off and leaves the apartment. And I'm like, oh crap, like, what do I do now? Mind you, now, as when I grabbed her face, the first thing I'm thinking is, oh my God, this woman is going to punch me right in my face, and I can't even protect myself because I have no control over my body right now. And I don't even know how to address this. So she runs out of the apartment. I go walking down, behind her, and he's still with me until I get outside of the bar. As soon as I walked through the metal double doors, it was broke. And I'm back to myself. Now, mind you, she beelines it across the street to the bar where we were at before. And I see her go over there, and she goes and orders another drink. I am afraid to even go and say anything to her at this point, because I don't know if she wants to beat me up. I don't know if she's scared of me. I don't know, I don't know what. So I go to another bar, and I go get trashed. And then we all come back about 3 a.m. Nobody says anything to each other. We all go to sleep. The next morning, I cannot sleep the whole night, because all I'm thinking is, how in the world, first I'm trying to understand what just happened to me. But second of all, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to explain this to this woman who I just met. And I grabbed her and everything. So she wakes up in the morning, and she comes, and I'm sitting at the table, and she comes and sits down. And I said, we need to talk. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, look at this. And she moved to her face to the side, and she literally had bruises on her side of her cheeks from where I had grabbed her by her face.
Whoa.
And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, you don't understand. And she's like, no, please, make me understand. She's like, because I will tell you, I do not believe in psychics. And she said, but what you said and what you did up there has completely changed my mind. And she's like, that was my husband there. And I'm like, what? And she's like, yeah. So she explains to me that they had bought this place back in 2012, and they were going to, renovate it and bring it back to its original, the original bar, and they were going to, open it and have a thriving business. But when they went there and they started doing the renovations and they started doing all the construction, they started having a bunch of paranormal activity, which, again, we always know when you're doing renovations or any kind of construction, you're going to stir things up. They found money bags that were buried under in the basement that had like money packs that had exploded. They found bones that were buried underneath the dirt in the basement as well. So anyway, they started having all this activity. He started changing. He started becoming very obsessed with the building. He didn't want to leave the building. They started fighting, and eventually it led to her having enough and deciding that she wanted a divorce. And so they decided that he was going to keep and keep remodeling the thing. She was going to buy him out of the bar, and they were just going to go their own ways. So the divorce happens, and she's ready to pay him so she can get her, she's ready to get her money so that she can sign off on the bar so she can be done with it. And she starts calling him to get her money, and he's not answering. So she literally calls for 3 weeks, and she cannot get a hold of him. So eventually she starts to get worried. So she calls the little sheriff's office, which there's 3 police officers for the whole town. And she says that she wants to go have a welfare check done. So they go there, and they basically go and break the door down into the apartment and found his dead body right at the threshold of the door. And he died there, and he had been dead for 3 weeks up there decomposing.
Good Lord.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what. One thing I'm getting out of this, Christina, you're definitely somebody. We're confined by an hour.
Right.
I'd love to have you back on here. For those listening and those in chat, anybody wanted to get I know you got some projects coming up, some radio and stuff. How can people reach you, or keep abreast of your current work going on? I know your Facebook page. Do you have a website or anything?
The website is actually in process of being built right now. I've just been basically going off of social media for the last 10 years, but you can go to any of the social media. You can find me under Paranormal Connections or under Christina George on Facebook. You'll find me. And then my radio shows are Paranormal Connections and Top Secret News. And Top Secret News, I cover UFOs, abductions, Bigfoot, cryptoids, everything other than paranormal, and obviously Paranormal Connections, I talk about the paranormal.
Absolutely.
Well, I got a question. We got an email here from Nellie McPherson, I believe it is. Yeah.
Oh, we were talking about those earlier. Yeah.
She's out of Ireland. She's asking me, have you ever literally had an out of body, experiences during any kind of paranormal investigation? Nellie, good question.
Not during a paranormal investigation, but it come back. I had a near death experience where I 100% had an out of body experience, and pretty much is what led me into getting into the public eye and the paranormal. So,
well, okay. So you've had an out of body. So well, there you go, Nellie. There's your answer, and she has. Now, we got a guy out of Australia, Bob. Oh, good Lord, McLaurin. I guess that is. Bob, I'm tearing your name up. I apologize, brother. But listen, he is asking on his email, it states, have you ever dealt with multi-personality possessions?
Yes, once and only once. I've had multiple people who claimed possession and claimed, multiple personality possession, and was a bunch of BS. But I did have one case, and it was actually pretty frightening. It was very, very interesting. Felt very bad for them, but we did get them some help through a church, and actually had a Catholic exorcist go and help that person. So.
Well, that answers the next question to who is this? Okay, yeah, hold on. I got Sally. Sally is out of Sweden. Well, Sally McGrath. That sounds like Ireland to me. But anyway, she's asking about just that right there. Has any possessions ever led to an actual, you've been in the room and an actual possession is what she's asking. And that's during an exorcism.
I was there for the possession, not because it was my case. I was not there for the exorcism because the Catholic Church only allows the priest and the person helping them and the client to be in the room.
Okay. Well, hold on. We got another one from a big fan out of California. Gee, I wonder.
Oh, you're hometown.
Girl. Now, she wants to know, when are you going to be coming back live? Because the minute you do, her name is Barbara Ethels or Ethels, probably Ethels. Barbara out of San Francisco. When are you coming back? We miss you.
Oh, thank you, Barbara. I will actually be back. A debut show is going to be March 3rd. I will be doing a show. We're going to be going up to Virginia City to take on the Union Brewery Bar again. I'm going back for a rematch and another haunted hotel there, and we are going to be bringing all of the evidence, and we'll be filming a little mini documentary. So we will be doing all that live on March 3rd. And then after that, it'll be Monday night, 6 p.m.
All right. I got another guy by the initials of JD out of Texas asking, will you put Brett and Jerry Dean on your show? By the way, his name's Jerry Dean.
Absolutely. Jerry and Brett are absolutely going to be on the show. I'm going to get them on the schedule. And so, yes, it'll be reciprocated. They will be on so I can interview them.
Well, Jerry Dean says thank you.
Yeah. Well, anyways, Christina, like I said, this show could go well over an hour. Hopefully one day we can have you back again. But, yeah, we want to appreciate you for joining us, everybody listening in, everybody on chat, and shout out to Ross for, giving us this spot on his network to have
Paranormal King.
Paranormal King Networks. You got it. But, yeah, on that, that's it. All that I have. I mean, I just want to wish everybody a good weekend. Be safe out there. And hopefully we see y'all next Friday.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me on the show. And anybody wants to contact me, you can reach me at paranormalinvestigator916@gmail.com.
Man, that is awesome. Hey, it was a great reunion. It's been a few years. I'm glad you're doing better. But you know what? I believe in what we've talked about the last time before we did you on the show. Live every life, every day. Every life. Live your life like there's no tomorrow. That's a good advice for anybody out there. This beautiful lady I've been blessed to be friends with for a lot of years. I know she's been through a lot. God, I'm just my prayers are for you, sweetheart.
Awesome.
Heart.
I appreciate that. Not going anywhere anytime soon. It's not my time, but I will be back here on this network on March 1st. I'm going to be on with the Reaps with Paranormal Collaboration, so you'll be able to check me out then too.
Definitely. Well, I don't know, man. What do you think, Brett? You want to tell them a little where they can find us at?
Yeah, anybody who wants to, the archive of this show is free to reach us on our YouTube channel and Facebook at American Alert Guardians Networks. On YouTube, you can see past archive of all our shows, including this one, and on our Facebook page as well. We keep up to date on what we're doing on there. But yeah, go out to the site, check out our videos, subscribe, be a member, and like I said, we'll be posting this show on YouTube probably tomorrow. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
They can go also become a member at American Alert Guardians on Facebook, y'all. It's a patriotic group. We're not a militia. We're just people that love God, our country, and our guns. But we love our rights, our freedoms. And for those of y'all that fought for our freedoms, I'm a veteran. So is my brother, Brett. We thank all of our troops out there that are fighting for this country and everything you sacrifice and put on the line every day. But yeah, y'all become a member at American Alert Guardians. Check us out on Facebook at American Alert Guardian Network. We are basically trying to put together amazing shows, and we got a lot of versatility on our shows on American Alert Guardians. But you can go check out my baby, my sweetheart, Miss Christina George. Again, Christina, where's that at, hon?
Paranormal Connections radio show. Find me on any of the social media pages. You'll find me.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, everybody, thank you for tuning in once again. I'm down in Texas. My brother's from North Carolina, and we got Christina out of California. Here I am in snow in Texas. And so much for global warming. We're breaking records right now in Texas. Good Lord. Y'all, I lost some friends in that pile up on the way to Dallas. There was over 100-something cars. Pray for the family. Keep them in your prayers. And the reason that happened is because we're under a lethal winter watch. That's just crazy. But I had some friends I just lost here recently. It's kept me kind of preoccupied. My phone's been ringing off the hook. To all you out there listening right now, I've told you I will send this worldwide. We're praying for you, your families, and we clearly feel bad about, and our condolences to your lost loves, and we're going to keep you in our prayers. God bless you. God bless America, and God bless this planet we all share and love, and we adore Earth. Until next time, y'all, this is a wrap. We will be back next Friday, and we got a group coming out of the UK. They're going to be awesome. We'll be posting a banner here real soon. Christina, thank you, and God bless everybody out there. Until next time, keep it real, love one another. Bringing it back next week. Dead between your eyes, pulling no punches. I'm Jerry Dean, and you're the host.
I'm Brett. Thanks, everybody.